We would like to start by invoking our guardian spirit. Holy art thou, Lord of the universe.
Holy art thou, the vast and mighty one.
Holy art thou, whom nature hath not formed.
Lord
Lord of the light and of the darkness. Hello, thank you for attending our talk. I am Alannah Brown.
And I'm Erich Brown, and we are the Temple of Limitless Light. We just wrote our first book, Modern Hermeticism, and we'd like to share some ideas with you. We chose Hermeticism as the underlying philosophical idea for both our book and our magical system because it stresses the idea of unity. Hermeticism is already deeply intrinsic to our way of thinking and maybe yours as well. We think a strong argument could be made that Hermeticism underlies all of Western magical thought. So my background in magic began at a really early age as I was seeing and sensing things that other people weren't. I was really drawn to ceremonial magic, but I didn't really understand it till I met Frater Barabbas in my 20s and was initiated into the ESSG.
And I have a very strong background in Buddhist study from when I was very young. I'm a practicing psychotherapist in the state of Florida for 25 years. And about 10 years ago, Erich and I decided to join our spiritual paths. We created the Temple of Limitless Light, and we've been doing, the cat, and we've been doing rituals ever since. You see the cat?
It's perfect, though.
Okay. No.
Sorry. Sorry. Cat was drawn. So a very super quick history of Hermeticism. It actually stretches back to Africa. During about 300 BCE, the Greeks were going to Egypt and studying with the Egyptian priests and learning, medicine, history, and they combined Thoth with Hermes and came up with Hermes Trismegistus. Then later in the Middle Ages, the 1600s, it was rediscovered. And then again in 1887 by the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which is where a lot of modern ceremonial magical styles spring from.
Okay, so as we form the rituals that make up our temple and the workings that we do, of course, because my history in Buddhism is so strong, I felt compelled to integrate a lot of these pieces into the work that we do. And so being present is a very important element that we can add to our magical workings. You may want to stick with a more trancey style, but I would argue that you can actually be present and be trancey simultaneously. And so here's a little technique that I work with people on of how to be present by using specific points in the body to focus on. The first is to focus on the feet, which will bring your energy down and ground you. And the second is to focus on your breath in the heart center. And this will center you and bring a more full-bodied awareness. From here, we can open up that awareness to a full body state, being aware of everything that's going on in our body. And then from there, we can even go into our light body in a full and present way. And when we enact these steps, you may find if you try enacting these steps in your rituals that it really empowers what you're doing.
So in our studies of Hermeticism, we needed to come up with a good, solid definition that was based on what people were doing in the scholarly aspects. And what I discovered was that there are 6 scholarly principles that underlie all of Western esotericism. We added the 7th, it's actually our first principle, of non-duality to really distinguish Hermeticism. So the first principle of modern Hermeticism is the principle of non-duality called the pleroma. And pleroma really means in the ancient Greek wholeness or completeness. And what it's referring to is the absolute unity of being. That reality is an absolute unity, and it's so intimately connected that it can only be described as an unbreakable unity of being.
And so we can bring in the idea of perennial philosophy as well here, that underlying a lot of philosophical traditions, there's this commonality, there's this unity that we're all striving towards. I'm not saying that we're all doing the same thing or that we're all going in the same direction. There's a lot of diversity in traditions, but there is this sort of underlying fabric of reality that we can all appreciate regardless of what spiritual tradition we are approaching it from. And we also get this idea of an egregore, a community, a group of people that come together to do magical practices. And Pleroma really underlies the philosophical aspect of everything that we do here.
The second principle of modern Hermeticism is living nature.
There you go. Here's our Marco kitty, our magical kitty.
To visit us. Living nature. And that idea is that everything is alive, not just people and cats and trees and stuff, but the rocks, the atoms, the molecules, the quarks, the light waves, that the universe itself is an absolute living organism that's alive and going through an existence, going through a life, going through an incarnation the same way that you are. And that's the antidote to the sort of the dead universe that we've been handed to by science.
Right. So we're moving away from this old three-dimensional Cartesian idea of space and time, this linear progression of reality, into something that is a vitality-based universe that we can interact with. And I really love this because it places a lot of value on the connection. Right? And when we have a value on connection and vitality and life force that's shared, then we also have an element of balance that comes out of that philosophy as well.
So the third principle was a little bit surprising to me when I first read it, and Antonio Favre's book, The Imagination as an Organ of Perception. Because I think if you're anything like me, you were told as a child that your imagination is of no value. It's this random thing that doesn't produce any information. It's just for play and for fantasy, right? It doesn't accomplish anything. But here, imagination is first a way that you can view the contents of your subconscious and learn more about yourself. And furthermore, it becomes part of a magical practice with things like scrying, remote viewing, astral projection, that the imagination becomes a sense organ and gives you information about yourself and about your environment.
Right. So this screen that we can get in touch with and be aware of is in our mind and it's in our body. We can experience that somatically as well. And so this gives us information as we're doing ritual work or as we're just moving through our daily day. We're getting information, and that information is coming from this interconnected living universe. And we can also use our magical workings to interact with this screen and create the effect that we want, right? So now we have a way of accessing the magic. Our imagination is real, and our imagination is powerful and potent and can create change.
The fourth principle, and this is something you probably all recognize from your magical practice, is sympatheia. The idea that everything in the universe is so intimately connected, but some things are in sympathy with other things. Like, for instance, you might have a moonstone or a gardenia plant as a way of calling in lunar energy. Or you might have iron as a way of influencing Martian energy. That these systems of correspondences between substances, they share a common vibration, a common energy. And a lot of magic has worked this way.
Mm-hmm. Sympathy is a very important concept. It means feeling together, a shared feeling and a shared connection. And I'd like to share with you the idea of I'd like to share with you the idea from Stoicism. Stoicism really exalts sympatheia as a virtue. It's a very ethics-based system that because we have this connection, because we are all interconnected and we can feel that on a deep level, on a strong, intuitive, imaginational, somatic level, that becomes a responsibility that we have to others, right? It's not I'm doing me and they're doing them. We're connected. And so all of our activities are connected as well. A lot of magic is done this way. That's it. I hit the points.
The transformation, the fifth principle is that everything is going through a process of transformation, that the universe is a process. It's actually a verb rather than a noun. It's not an artifact that was left over from some process in the past, but that everything is going through a continuous process of transformation and evolution. And you're not the same person that went to bed last night. And tomorrow you'll be another person altogether. So since transformation is something that's going to be a continuous process, why not take control over the process of transformation and bring to the surface the more authentic aspect of who you are?
Mm-hmm. So humanity is moving towards actualization. That's an inherent part of who we are as human beings, is this drive towards becoming, towards actualization. And we move there naturally when our process is unhindered. So when we engage in this process intentionally, we enter into an alchemical process with magic that will manifest gnosis and personal growth and a divine condition.
The sixth principle is concordance. And this is something that's really baked into all of Western Hermeticism. It's the idea that knowledge in one area, one esoteric field of study, will enable you to have some insight into another area. So if you're studying the Tarot, and you know that the Emperor relates to the sign of Aries, then you learn about the Emperor. Then if you study astrology, you'll already know something about the sign of Aries, and vice versa. It works both ways. That underneath everything, all of our knowledge is connected through the pleroma as well. And so whatever knowledge you gain studying one area, you'll have insight into other areas, and other things like the Kabbalah, the Tarot. Those are all examples of, in Hermeticism, how the knowledge is interconnected through the pleroma and very intimately.
And the final principle is transmission. And this is the idea that knowledge can be passed from one person to another. I can tell you something about my day and you would understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it incorporates the idea of initiation, which can be a formal event between you and a lineage holder, a teacher, a master, or it can be a private experience that is just between you and your guides.
Yes, transmission is something you can gain, just casually working with people who are more experienced in doing magic with them. You can gain the resonance, you can gain energy and alignment just the same way a piece of steel becomes magnetized if it's near a magnet.
Mm-hmm. So now that you have the 7 principles of modern Hermeticism, we'd like to share a simple ritual with you.
So we invite you to participate at whatever level that you would like with this little basic simple ritual that's used to connect to source, to your holy guardian angel, your source, ground it in the earth, and then balance that energy between your love and your will. This is used at the beginning and at the end of any magical practice, and also can be used throughout your day as a simple mindfulness moment, a way to connect in.
Mm-hmm. So if you look at this image here, you'll see 4 orbs of color, 4 orbs of light. And those can be envisioned very strongly during this guided piece that Erich is going to present to us. And so as we do that, hold that color in your imagination. Hold the sound that goes along with it in your imagination. See if you can come into the somatic present mindful moment and feel how each of these different steps affect your energy body, your light body, as you do them.
Okay, so here's how the practice works. It's a simple grounding and balancing centering. We're going to reach above our head. We're going to say Eta. We're going to vibrate the name. I'll do the we'll vibrate it together so that you can sort of feel when you vibrate the name, it sort of sends the energy through your body. Eta means thou art. We'll bring the light down into the earth. Malkuth, which means the kingdom. We'll bring it up to our left shoulder. Vigadula, which represents your compassion, your love, your loving, your willingness to connect to the universe. And then we bring it to the right side, where a red ball of energy is representing your will and your ability to set boundaries. So we're balancing that. And then we go Elam, Amen. So thou art the kingdom, love, and the will forever and ever. Amen. Just like that. And I'll guide us through it. I'll do a little guided visualization to help us visualize. And if you can't visualize, just know, that these things are happening, and that'll work.
Okay, take a deep breath. Go a little slower.
Oh, yes. Let's take a few deep breaths, sink into our body.
Ground in the feet, the heart, the light body.
And begin to visualize yourself growing larger and larger. Your head going up through the roof, past the clouds, into space, past the moon, until the earth is but a small ball beneath your feet. Reach up above your head and touch a ball of pure brilliance. Bring that light down to your forehead and vibrate. Then bring the light down through the center of your being and ground it in the very fiery core of the planet so that you're standing in a column of light. And vibrate. Bring the light up again to your left shoulder. Visualize a ball of blue flame representing unconditional love and compassion. Vegebura. Now bring the light across to your right shoulder and visualize a ball of red flame representing your will and your boundary setting. Vegebura. Across your arms. Llewellyn. Amen.
Contained within these principles is the process of magic, the ability to effect change in our collective experience of reality. There is an unbreakable unity that celebrates cohesion among its many parts. As above, so below, as within, so without, and the all is in the one, and the one is in the all. And so I think we do have time for questions. There was one up top about how it related to Hermetic principles.
Yes, if you're thinking about the Kabbalion written by 3 initiates is a really cool book, and it has some really neat ideas on it. But when we were doing our studies, we were looking at a definition where we could really tie down what is the whole philosophy of Hermeticism. And so we were looking at the scholarlyship, what was being done. And there's a guy, Antonio Favre, came up with a set of principles that define all of Western esotericism. He was the kind of person, he was the person who made it okay to study magic as an academic, as a PhD. And so that people could really seriously study this, like,
and get a degree.
Get a degree,
People
get a
have
PhD.
degrees in all of these topics that we're talking about now.
Mm-hmm. And so he came up with the 6 ideas that has the, and then we added the 7th of the pleroma as a way to really dial in the idea of unity, because there are other points of view that incorporate a lot of these principles, but they're not always as focused on the idea of unity, which is really core to how the whole system works. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, magic or anything really wouldn't be possible.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Thanks for all the compliments.
Theosophy is similar, and it came out of a time period at the same time period as the Golden Dawn and their revolution of ceremonial magic back in the late 1800s. There was a renaissance of he's great. This is a renaissance of Western magical thought in both theosophy and ceremonial magic at that time. And that's where the Golden Dawn is, and that's where a lot of ceremonialists and ritualists trace their lineage, because even though it existed at a very brief time, it was just an explosion of really advanced magical thought and creativity.
Early Western occultism.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we incorporate mindfulness in our modern Hermeticism. And we use the techniques in a lot of different ways. And we also incorporate an entire magical system, which you can read about in the book, Modern Hermeticism. So this is like literally the introduction of our book. And from here, we go on to describe a process of community magic, where we're using elements, planets, and such to create change, to create community magic in the world. So we're taking these ideas and we're using them in new ways.
And also the somatic body awareness. It's like absolutely critical. And that was one of the things that really got me when we started practicing together, is the idea of feeling the effects in your body. Like you go into a ritual, you do a big formal ritual. Oh yeah, of course. You do a huge formal ritual and you have this profound experience. If you can remember the body sensation, how you felt while you were in that process, then when you're outside of the formal process, you can do an informal process. You can remember how you felt. Like maybe you took an hour and you invoked an angel and you had this profound experience. If you're out in public, you can remember the body sensation at that moment, if you're very mindful when you're doing the work. And then you can have the informal practice where you're able to bring those magical experiences into your everyday life. And that's one of the things that I really took from what Alannah brought to this, is this idea of the somatic. How do you feel in your body? Because we get very deep into our heads and our head experiences. Mm-hmm. But honestly, and we go over it in the book a lot, what's really more important is, I think, the somatic experience. Mm-hmm. Be able to take you back to that moment in time when you were having that. Yeah, things beyond words. Because the narrator of our mind wants to encapsulate the experience in words. But some things really can't be captured in words. Some things that go beyond words and conversation.
The experience of illuminating a cross inside of your body and the power that has for transformation, for development, for purification, for entering into a magical space, then that is something that we can describe to you in language. Do this thing. Go face the east and chant these words. We've got a lot of that in the book. But being able to feel it on a somatic level, that's what really turns it into something that's living. Are we occultists, or are we magical? We're magical.
Occultist means hidden, really.
I mean,
gravity is an occult force. You can't see it.
More occult than what would More occult than what would be my question to you? Because a lot of the
human beings, a guest in the house every morning, a new arrival. Yeah, that's really cool. Right. That's a really good way to look at things. But I think the mindfulness is what makes the somatic body awareness possible. And those two things together make it possible to have an informal practice where you bring the magic into your everyday life.
Right. And I think a lot of what happens as we've created our magic together over the past decade, and taken these rituals that we've gotten, is because I have all this experience with shadow work and working in the subconscious and all of the therapy and a whole lot of Jung, a whole lot of subconscious going on when I'm doing my work with my practice, is that, we've really developed something that's unique to us. Oh, great. Thanks for following.
Yeah, that's our Facebook is up there. So if you want to join, we have a Facebook, and we've been having youth weekly rituals, but kind of take a break because we're on a book tour. We'll be in Atlanta at Phoenix Dragon at the end of the month.
Right.
And then our book, and then our YouTube that has a lot of our YouTube has a lot of demonstrations, because one of the things we're really working for is to try to make ritual normal and normalize it to let people see what rituals actually look like.
So the quick practice that we can share with you is the Qabalistic Cross that we just walked through. That's, the basic introduction. That's the first thing that any ceremonial magician would use. And also with regards to our class, we meet mostly weekly. We've been a little bit busy with this book tour. We meet weekly on Zooms. We're doing pathworking on the Tree of Life. We are about ready to approach Kether. And we do monthly in-person rituals, which we also will do on Zoom if people would like to attend. And that is in our community magic style.
Yeah, this Saturday we're going to do the invocation of Gob using the greater ritual of the Pentagram. So the elemental king of the gnomes. No. Nixa, sorry. It's
water.
It's water. This middle of summer is water because the sun is moving into Cancer. So
thank you, everybody, for your support and comments.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice. Any final questions?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Qabalistic Cross serves as, if you like Jung, you probably like Joseph Campbell too, right? And ritual is a reenactment of myth. And so every myth has a departure and a return, right? The point where the hero leaves their normal life, goes away, has an adventure, and they come back. The Qabalistic Cross serves as that departure stage and the return stage. For instance, Jude is talking about the lesser banishing ritual, the Pentagram. You do a Qabalistic Cross, LBRP, Qabalistic Cross a second time.
I think that's an excellent community service. Everywhere you do that, you're going to be purifying the space. Everywhere you go. And yes, that's why we chose this presentation, because we wanted to highlight the principles and show how much underlies a lot of other thinking of people that are doing many other types of practices. All will resonate with these ideas.
Right. You probably recognize, you're like, oh, I'm already using Sympatheia in my magic. I'm already using my imagination in order to perceive and direct the magic. You're already using a lot of these ideas. It's just sometimes somebody comes along and puts together a definition and hands it to you, and you go, oh yeah, now that gives me an insight into other things that I could be doing, or other ways I could be approaching my practice. And there have been pagans that are Hermeticists, Christians, Muslims, that Hermeticism is something that complements all sorts of spiritual paths, that you can use it to. I guess that's really the why to study Hermeticism. It's because it's something that then you can take and apply to your own personal spiritual path. That's really the big why, that you're probably already using some of these ideas. So why not study them a little bit more and use them as a way to enhance what you already are doing?
Okay.
Thanks.
We'll call it quit. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming to our talk. Great honor to speak to all